Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome, and thanks for being here. Another collaboration. We teased a part two in part one with Sports Card Therapist, and we decided to go ahead and do it back-to-back episodes. So I hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, here we go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to part two of Rob Sports Card Therapist, Big Ken Sports Card Lessons for myself, Sports Card Therapist. This is episode 216. And for my good friend Ken, I believe this is episode 130.
130. Yeah.
Big Ken, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Rob. I'm doing well. We teased this part two, and now it's coming at them. So
We actually made it happen doing 2 episodes in a row. Of all the episodes and the collab episodes we've done, I don't think we've ever done 2 in a row like this outside of like 2 Wolfpack episodes in a row.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
Yeah. Actually, I think I don't want to prove you wrong, but maybe I'm not proving you wrong. But I think wasn't the national? Didn't we do 3 of those? And it wasn't like part 1, part 2, part 3.
You know what? I don't know what I remember. I don't remember what I had for lunch this afternoon. So you could be right.
Yeah. Who knows? That was so long ago, right?
Yeah.
It's like the night before, right? It's the hangover the next day. You sometimes you remember, but a lot of times you don't remember, right? So, and we've been talking about that national hangover, right? So maybe that's what's throwing us off.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think so. The title of this episode is Slowing Down to Refocus. And I think throwing out the idea of having a national hangover, right? I think that's a pretty, like, it seems like kind of an obvious answer and a simple answer, but the thing is, and I know that not everyone is slowing down. I'm only seeing things through my lens, you're seeing things through your lens, but it does feel like there's been a lot of slowing down recently with just buying in general, and just overall hobby stuff. And I'm looking at Card Ladder and I'm seeing just about every single category still going down. And so I don't know if it's actually a national hangover or if that's just one ingredient in the whole recipe.
And we're so focused on the cards here, right? The buying, the selling, the show stuff, the online stuff. But I think, like, I know I'm sending cards out to PSA. I have a couple orders out at PSA right now, and they've only received them. So back in the spring, back in May, June, July, I would send an order in. 3 days later, they would accept it, right? And then I could watch it go through the things, and 6 weeks later, those cards were coming back. Now I have orders starting in July, August, September, and now October. They're just received. They've done nothing else. They haven't even gone to step 1. All they show is received. And I even called PSA and I said, what is going on? Like, back in the spring, you guys were accepting these cards right away and putting it in. And they're saying, oh, their standard answer. Oh, we have 60 days to whatever. I said, yeah, I know, but you weren't taking 60 days back in the spring. So why are, I have, my July order is what is this, 90 days? I mean, it's well over the 60 days, and they've done nothing with it yet. So I don't even know if they're slowing down, if they're so overwhelmed, or they're just slowing down what they're doing there as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like a birdie told me, or it could have been just hobby info, that PSA was laying people off for a while. And I think, and I'm not sure how true that is, but I know that they, when you go from taking a 6 to 9 month stoppage of taking cards and then you ramp back up at the level that they did, but then you have the hobby correction happening at the same time. There's been a lot of instability, I would imagine, within PSA, and really, I don't want to say all grading companies, because you have grading companies like SGC that is really feels like just has not skipped a beat. I feel like in the last 2 to 3 years, Beckett has been completely thrown under the bus, and they're, what, a distant number three now, it seems like, and PSA's just really had its ups and downs and whatnot.
Mm.
But SGC does seem like it's maintained some kind of reasonable level of stability. And I don't know if you've been seeing this, but I've been seeing, whether if it's in, Instagram story sales or if it's in Facebook groups or Twitter threads, I am seeing so many more SGC graded cards. Modern football, modern baseball, modern soccer. It seems like it's just so much SGC.
And I think it's because people know they're going to get them back. SGC is still this company that's saying, if you send it to us, we're going to get it back in this amount of time, and you're going to get your card back. And they've stuck by that. And would I have gone to SGC if I known these hockey cards that I submitted for grading in July and August? That here it is October, and they've done nothing with them yet. Hockey season is now started. Right. So, I thought, I'm being smart and I'm getting these things graded. But I guess if I was even smarter, I would have just graded them through SGC. So I would have guaranteed I would have had them back and ready for sale, at the beginning, just before and during, the hockey season. So I don't know when these other cards are even going to come back. I mean, it could be December, January. Who knows when these cards are going to come back now from grading? And it kind of throws a wrench into what I'm doing. Like I think I'm planning ahead, and I'm going to have cards for the next show and next month and this season and that season. Now I can't even rely on that.
Yeah. And, the whole slowing down to refocus thing, it's been something that I know for me, I think about, okay, I'm great at multitasking, but I also am great at getting carried away when something feels really good. And I think, getting mail days feels really good, scrolling feels really good, buying cards feels really good. But by I think having a lot of mail days and just making a lot of impulse purchases, even if it is going straight toward a PC that you are building, I think it can lead to like some dopamine distractions. Okay. I think it can lead to some dopamine distractions. And what I mean by that is every time, the whole reason why shopping and gambling and spending money is what's considered a secondary addiction, the first one being like alcohol, drugs, that kind of stuff, but a secondary addiction is because the shopping, we're constantly getting these, little dopamine blasts every time we make purchases, right? If we look at our wives or our girlfriends or, maybe someone that we know that's getting Amazon packages every single day, that's probably something they're dealing with. I know I've dealt with that as well, but I feel like a big part of me slowing down, it's been for a few reasons. I feel like part of it has been finances, right? I feel like part of it's been finances. I've found in the last 3 to 6 months, I really have not had the extra finances to put toward cards. So I have money in my card fund, so to speak, but I'm used to weekly contributing to that card fund, regardless of whatever the circumstances are. But it seems like with inflation and gas and the price of a pound of ground beef being $9 instead of 5, like all these things kind of add up, and these expenses just feel like they've continued to accumulate, and that's taken a toll, I know, on me buying and me freely spending. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are listening to this or that are watching this that can identify with that. And that's why we're seeing that kind of market correction so much over these last couple of years. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I can say that in the sports card lessons household, the budget, the brains of the operation does all the budgeting. So, but I do know that even like groceries and things like that are becoming more expensive. There's more money that needs to go into that budget. Um, I know when I'm going and getting gas, it used to cost me 50 something dollars to fill up. Now it costs me almost $80 to fill up. So, I see it happening, around me. I don't know. I would have to say, because I've owned a business for so many years, I can tell you when I always know, um, when the economy is maybe not good, or people are spending now more than they expected to spend, this time of year, because I think people are preparing for the holidays and things like that. So there's nothing extra. There's no extra that goes in. Nobody's out spending some extra money here and extra money there, because they're saying, "Geez, I have to save now. Here it is, October. Thanksgiving's only so many weeks away, and then there's the holidays. Through December and January, and a lot of times when the economy is not good, through my business, I can see it'll usually January, February, March, it'll all start to pick up again if there's a slowdown. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. Um, as far as the card market, I mean, there's still people selling a ton of stuff. I go through, and I understand what you mean about little dopamine and buying things. Like I see people, I spend all day going through Facebook and Instagram and looking at a lot of these things for sale, and I see the prices holding firm. And I want to say that because these cards that come out, I'll be like, oh, that would be a great card if I could get into that, and then put that in my inventory to go sell at a show. And by the time I reach out to somebody, it's already sold, and it sold more than I was about to offer.
Give me an example of a card that you see holding firm.
So right now I'm looking at hockey, and I've been looking at hockey, and I'll say like a Call Caulfield, Young Guns, right? And I'm not, I could go with the Connor McDavid and things like that, but I feel that some of those players, that the prices were so inflated to begin with, they're not going to go anywhere. So now if we go to somebody who's a rookie just a few years ago, a 2021 rookie, and his PSA 10 um, Young Guns is more expensive than most, because most Young Guns probably around $100. I'm going to say average of $100, anywhere from say 50, 70 to 120, 130. So you take a Cole Caulfield, right, and the price, it's $300 for a card like that. So I was buying these cards at 240, 225 in the summertime.
Yeah, but that was off season, so that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, but now they're holding strong. Like you would think, if
What year is that Call Caulfield card that you're talking about?
21.
Okay, so what was that exact card selling for exactly a year ago? That's how you measure it.
So probably close to, and I'm going to say, I think around over 300. I'm going to say 350,
So it's
375.
down from last year.
I would say yes. Yeah.
So yeah, and so like I hear people talking, and I've said it too, right? I mean, these are tremendous buying opportunities. Cards are continuing to come down, but I think at times when you're looking at some of these cards and you're thinking about making some of these big splashes, it could almost feel like trying to catch a falling knife, right? Like you see it falling and you're like, "Oh my god, I got to grab that. It's falling." But then you're like, I don't know, it might be dangerous. Like
Mm.
how many times has someone bought a card on the way down and has it gone back up? I could remember like a couple of years ago, in the off season, I was loading up on Kyler Murray, right? And I think you probably remember that. I was loading up on Kyler. I was getting some incredible Kyler cards in the off season, like flawless rookies. I had multiple flawless RPAs of him, flawless patches, all this stuff. And it seemed like, and it's because I really believed in his talent. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes to buying almost anything modern, it's not about the talent of a guy. It's about the hype.
Yep.
So what I realize, like if I'm buying modern and I'm doing it for a flip, then I can't look at it like, What's this guy's talent level going to be? Like I have to try to measure what the hype is going to be. And I think
What
about
the
Justin
market thinks it's worth.
I think about Justin Fields, right? And he was obviously one of the hottest quarterbacks in the offseason. But I think about how much of that hype was created because everyone knew the National was in Chicago this year. And so I think that I'll speak for myself. I didn't buy any Justin Fields, but I'm like, yeah, Justin Fields would probably be somewhat of a smart buy in March and April because 3-4 months down the line we're going to be in Chicago, and we think there's going to be a lot of Chicago fans there, and that would be an easy sell. But when so many people were thinking that, and so many people were pushing the narrative of Justin Fields as a hot buy, that kind of manifested into his market going through the roof. And I don't think it was going through the roof for the same reason that Trevor Lawrence's was going through the roof. I don't think it's because people believed he was going to come out and throw for 40 touchdowns this season or even 30.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I knew it was bad for Justin Fields when we were at the National and people were coming with these, these rookie RPA cards, and they were trying to trade me for Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes cards. I mean, right. So I knew right then, I was happy to probably not have any Justin Fields at that time. And we all know where I was the year before with the Mac Jones and the Zach Wilson cards, right? So I got burned on that. So this year, you know what I did? I mean, I moved all those. Somebody asked me the other day, do you still have any more Ritters? I said no, I got rid of them all because
But I'm
I've learned.
curious, you got burned on Mac Jones the year before, yet this year you were buying up Ritter. You were literally doing the same thing.
I was doing the same thing, but I never planned on having one Ritter card when he actually started playing. Whether not saying that, hey, I knew he was going to play well or he wasn't going to play well, because we know a quarterback could go out and play well and his cards could tank, right? Because you just said it yourself. It's really not about how well they play. It's about the perception. It's about the hype of the player. So if you just go buy the hype on a player, but you sell it before that player can ever either show you that he's worth the hype or he wasn't worth the hype, then it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, we're not getting rich on this, but we're picking them up and we're moving
Some
the.
people are getting rich on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not buying those 10, 15, $20,000 Ritters. I'm buying the two, three, $400 Ritters and selling them for $400, $500, $600. Because that's what I do. That's where I'm at. But and hockey is a little bit different, right? So hockey, you don't see a lot of hype going into, not here anyways, maybe in Canada you do, but you don't see a lot of hype coming in. But you can go out and buy these young gun cards for 10, 15, 20, 25, $30, right? Send them to PSA. If you can get a 10, now you've got what, $40, $45 invested into it. If that card goes up to 70, 80, $90, I mean, you did pretty well. If it didn't, you can still get your money out of it. It's a lot different um, with football, that everybody wants to buy the raw card and grade it to sell the card because they're looking for that 10 and that 10x on that card. But then all of a sudden what we find is there's so many of those cards out there, people are just selling them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So now it comes out to, which cards do you need? Because there's a whole lot more football cards out there in one season than there is hockey, right? And I think probably basketball is the same way too. So if you're not it goes all the way back to SGC, because I hear people talking about this, the content I'm listening to. People say, look, the best thing to do, take this card, get it to SGC, get it graded, be first to market and sell it and turn it for a profit, right? And then, move on right to the next card. It's the Walmart attitude. You want to sell in bulk, right? You want to sell in quantity. You sell a million things and you're making 25 cents, you're going to make money on it. So and I think that that it's a lot to do with what why this market is flooded with so many slabs right now.
Well, yeah, and we've talked before. I think this is more than likely the junk slab era, right? We talk about the junk wax era being like 84, 85 to like 94, 95, just over printing of
Mhm.
cards. And now all we're seeing are so many slabs. I mean, I see slabs that come out, right? I'll see them at shows, I'll see them on eBay, on auction, whatever the case. And you can clearly tell by the serial number that it's been graded within the last 3 to 6 months. It's been graded within the last 3 to 6 months. It could be a PSA 10, and these cards are going for $15. And so it's like,
And it
if
costs
I
$19 to grade it.
it costs $19 to grade it. And if you're buying the card raw usually sells right around PSA 9 comps. So even if a PSA 9 comp is, say, like $12, and then you're paying 19 or 20 to grade it at 32, and now it's only selling for 15. It doesn't make sense. It's almost like people are not smart, or they don't thoroughly and really think through which cards are the best to send. I mean, regardless, like obviously they're probably checking out the condition and stuff like that, but um
No, but you think you send 50 cards in. You go out and you buy 50 cards, anywhere from $1 to $10 or $12, and you buy 50 cards, right? And you think these have the ability to get tens, and you send them all in, and out of that 50 cards, say 20 come back tens. So that's going to pay for all those eights and nines that you're going to end up selling for.
I I definitely realize that, but what I'm saying is, why would someone send in a second year Don Russ, Trevor Lawrence card to PSA for grading? Because even a PSA 10 of those are going for like $18.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of making up that
Yeah,
example, but
you're
it's
right.
like,
That's not a smart move.
why are they even sending in cards that if they PSA 10,
Mm.
they won't make much money back on?
Yeah.
So it's like there's just such a junk slab era that it feels like we're kind of in. And I think when it comes to pumping these players, when it comes to pumping them, like I just can't imagine. I know that there are some people out there that do this full time, and kudos to you guys. I think it, when someone is doing this full time and this is how their income, this is what their income is based on, I feel like that just opens up the door for so many potential shady tactics, right? Not even just shill bidding, not even just shilling your own cards, right? But like, the whole pump and dump thing. And I know that there's people on Instagram, there's people on YouTube that will go, and it's almost like they make a decision. It's like come February or March, they're like, okay, let me look at this crop of new quarterbacks or first year quarterbacks. Who am I going to completely put this money into? I want to pick one or two guys. I don't want to just spread it out. I want to pick one or two guys, and I want to pump this guy to the moon. And you see content creators that do this, and they start really, really like pumping them, really pumping them. And I see a lot of like well-known collectors, like well-known. They have a lot of power and sway in this hobby, and on their platforms, whether if it's on their Instagram, like their Instagram story, like they'll like anonymously call out these guys. And it's like, and awesome, glad you're doing that, glad you're bringing attention to it, right? But it's like, if you're going to call them out, like call them out. Don't just be like, oh boy, glad I'm not pumping Sam Howell cards or anything like that. And it's like, and it's clear that a lot of these like content creators or these people that work for these big companies are like, they're clearly talking about someone like Roth cards, right? Someone like Roth cards, they're clearly talking about him. So I will consistently message people when I see them call out people, but not actually say the name. And I'm like, why aren't you saying the name? If you're going to call out someone, call them out. And there's probably people that are listening to this right now that I've specifically done that to. Why aren't you calling them out?
Mm.
If you're talking about Roth cards, say his name. Like, why not? You know
And
what I
people are
mean?
afraid.
And I'm not saying I'm fully calling out Roth cards, but I could remember probably like a year ago, he had posted something, and I don't follow him. I don't see what he does or anything like that. But someone sent me a story post of what he had done, and I screenshotted it, and I could remember tagging him and saying, "This guy's an idiot. Don't follow him." Because basically what he was saying was like, he's like, man, if you have a vision and you're like, if you have a vision and you're not sure of what you're going to do, like, drop out, like, go all in, drop out of school, remortgage your house, go all in. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one will believe in you. And I'm like, and I'm paraphrasing this, but I can remember like doing that emoji where like my hand is on my chin, and I'm like, that is such stupid and irresponsible
Yeah.
like advice to give to people, especially if you have a following, especially if you have like a young following and these young kids are seeing you and thinking that's the way to go. You know what I mean? And I know, I talked about Shea Way on a couple episodes ago with Adam Gray, and now all these like videos are kind of popping up of Shay, and there was a video of him. He's like, yeah, I sold my Mercedes and bought a superfractor, and like for some reason that became like a big video and stuff like that. But it's like, um, yeah, like if you want to do that, great. Chances are, I'm quite certain though that Shay was not skipping any meals by selling his Mercedes for a superfractor. But what I could imagine kids doing though are probably taking it and selling things that they probably need. Like, let me sell my school books. Let me sell my laptop, and do that. So it's like, so I think sometimes when I hear these kinds of messages, um, if I feel some type of way about it, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say someone's name. And I don't know. And I didn't plan on like actually saying this or talking about this on today's episode, but it's like we always hear like that phrase bad actors, and it's like, there's so many people that just don't like Jeff Wilson, right? For, good, bad, or indifferent, but like the only people I actually see truly calling him out are like the meme accounts.
Hmm.
Like if you're going to constantly like reference Jeff Wilson but like not say his name, like say his name then. Like, grow a set and say someone's name. And I'm not saying I want Jeff Wilson to start getting called out like crazy, but in my opinion it's like grow a set and say their names, because to me the message really falls flat when you don't. And that's one thing I can say about the watchdogs in the hobby is that like the watchdogs actually do. I think I just clicked out for a minute, but the watchdogs actually call out people. And I think as long as you're not like truly getting personal, as long as you're not just trying to tear them down for the sake of tearing them down, but you're coming with some sort of explanation or backing for why you're saying something, like, to me, it feels hollow if someone's just making a random statement and I have no idea what the context is.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, if somebody starts coming at somebody and then they don't want to call them out, I mean, a lot of times it's, they may be protecting themselves too, because I don't care who you are. If you've been around here long enough, there's probably something somebody can call out on you, right? Or go back and pull up something that maybe you've said or you weren't quoted the right way or something like that. But I think a lot of times what happens is when people are on there and they don't want to call out people on there, it's because they don't want the backlash. They don't want people coming back to them and saying, oh, you want to call us out? All right, let's call you out and start digging through what you're doing and what you've been doing. And people don't want that. So, they want, the negative content everyone feels brings the views, right? And that's what everybody wants, the views. So they want them as far as they can get them, but they don't want to call somebody out, like literally call somebody out, because they don't want to be attacked. They just want to be on the offense all the time. They don't want to have to play defense. And the people who come out and they say, this is who I am, this is who I'm calling out. These are the people that are willing to play defense. They truly believe, in their heart of hearts what they're saying, and it needs to be called out, and they need to, put somebody on blast. And I'm going to be the one to do it, and this is who I am, and I'm throwing you on blast for that. And then let the fireworks begin from there. But it's negativity. If you go through the content with all the negativity, because people feel that those negativity bring the viewers, and I think in some cases they probably do.
And this is why all great points, but this is why in my mind, if you're going to call someone out, try to take everything that's personal out of it, right? Like I'm calling like I don't like what this person said and this is why. You know what I mean? Because there's so much more to that. It's like if I don't know. I don't know. Like, let us know what the reasoning is. Let us know, because then that might be able to add some context. Like, oh, you know what? It's making me think. Now it's making my wheels turn. Like, oh, you know what? Yeah, like shilling is bad, but tell me more about shilling.
Yeah.
Not just calling out someone because they shilled and then really that's it. But like, because it's a missed opportunity, I feel like, when someone gets called out for a behavior, but then, and I'm not saying dig deeper in his past or dig deeper in what this guy's done, but what I'm saying is dig deeper in terms of why is he getting called out? Because I feel like when someone does something wrong, I believe in first chances, second chances, third chances, fourth chances. I never want to cancel anyone. I really don't. But I feel like when we don't discuss the actions behind it, it's a missed opportunity, and all we do is open up the doors for that kind of behavior to happen again. Maybe not from that person, but from someone else. Because every day we're having people join the hobby, right? The hobby's continuing to kind of, filter people out. Some people leave, some people, stop spending for a while. They put their cards in the shoebox or the Zion case, they put it in their closet, maybe they step back for a couple of years. You have new people coming in who are giving it a shot. And it's like, I think that's why I enjoy listening to content where I'm continuing to be entertained and educated at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just talked about putting your cards away in a box and for a few years or whatever. A lot of that's just life getting in the way, right? I mean, you talk about like maybe people stepping away from the hobby and stepping back or refocusing and things like that. You think about the people, the money they put into this hobby. If you've got a young family like you do at home, I mean, you would be a perfect example. When you jumped back in the hobby, you know, I, you can correct me. I think your daughter was just born. When you jumped back into the hobby, now you have child number two, and you've got things going on. So maybe the expenses you had that was available then, maybe not so much available now, and that happens to a lot of people. Someone like me, I'm past all that. So it's a fun time for me to be in the hobby. I don't have many things I need to answer to, but there are a lot of people that come and go in this hobby back and forth, and sometimes people, and I'm coming around full circle too. Sometimes people do things in the hobby because it really becomes money driven, right? It really becomes like, okay, I'm into these cards for whatever, and I need to get out of these cards because the money needs to go into something else. It becomes money driven, and sometimes you get back, when things become money driven, sometimes you get some bad actors out there, right? Sometimes you get people doing things that maybe a little shady or things like that, and it's a shame, but it does happen. And you're talking about believing in first and second and third chances. You're a good person for that. There's a lot of people out there, so you get one shot at it. You you mess up, you're done with me. You're dead to me, type of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but anyway, look, we're talking about refocusing, right? And I want to refocus, and I want to ask you. So, what do as far as refocusing in your mind, your collection, where you're at in the hobby? How are you refocusing? What are you, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? What changes have you made? What different things are you doing?
Yeah, I think, going back over the last 6 months, I was just on a buying spree of, just a lot of Eli Manning stuff. Eli's my guy. He is absolutely my guy, and I think now when I'm making a purchase, I'm trying to have much more a much more focused intention behind it. I don't want to buy just to buy. I don't want to buy just to watch my collection grow. I want to continue to curate it and truly be quality over quantity. And one thing that I've been noticing is that, like, oh, there's a lot of Eli cards that are getting shilled. There's a lot of Eli cards that are getting sold, and a week later they pop up for sale again. Same consigner, same
Yeah.
seller, whatever the case. And so that's kind of taken a little wind out of my sails too, is noticing, like, okay, like some of these cards are going for either A, more than they should, or B, the bidding history, when I look at the bids that are coming in, they just don't seem right. So there's a few things going on. But I think, between I've continued over the last year to really explore Type 1 photos. So Type 1 photos, I'm still obviously very heavy in vintage and the Eli stuff, but my spending has been much more intentional rather than impulsive.
Hmm. Nice. And I kind of feel the same way. You're talking about Eli being shilled. I think everything is shilled. We've had this conversation. I'm trying to buy cards, and I'm saying, look, I know this is what I'm willing to pay for it, and I'm always the last, and then one more person outbids me, and then a few days later I see that same card come back up, and it happens over and over. It gets to a point where I'm like, I really want that card, but I just don't want to keep going through this all the time. And I'm kind of happy that with Trinity Rodman, there's only so many of her cards, right? It's
Yeah.
not, there's only 3 years worth, and there's only so many of them. So it's kind of cool that I really, can hone in and be super focused on certain cards that I don't, because I have mostly all her cards, but there's a handful that I don't have that I'm, that I get focused on. But I do have to say one thing that, I know how big you are with your vintage, and I have to say, at most of the shows that I've been at and listening to people, as I love to listen to people talk, I'll just go up to a table and listen to conversations. And this weekend, when we were at one of the shows, and there was a conversation about vintage and the cards, and one thing I hear them say all the time, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, but for someone like me who's never in vintage, they say they're not making any more of those. So it's interesting to think that we're kind of in a time now, and this is really getting my mind thinking about vintage. You're kind of in a time now where, and I'm going to bring this to when I was in high school, right? We could buy cars, to drive for $500, three, four, $500, register them, drive them for a few months, sell them, and get another one. And these weren't just any cars; these were Camaros, these were Chevelles, these were Firebirds, Novas. They were cars where today, like, those cars are 50, 80, $100,000 if they're restored well and things like that. And my mind keeps churning, like, we at a time now where if I don't jump in a little bit on this vintage, am I going to miss out? Like, is there going to be a time where these cards are going to dry up and you're not going to see them, and when you do, they're going to be so much more expensive over the next 10, 15, 20 years? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I would say no, to be honest with you. And I think there's a lot of vintage collectors that feel that yes, that is the case, and that is part a small sliver of what does drive the vintage market. But what I would say is, for as many new collectors that come into the vintage area, there continues to be vintage collections that are found for the first time ever from 80 years ago, or 100 years ago. I mean, it feels like people are constantly unearthing vintage cards that have never seen the market before. And I think about how many of those vintage cards probably might be stored away either by accident or with purpose. But yeah, you're right. They are not making them anymore, but there are a lot more to go around.
Yeah.
There are more to go around. I mean, there's a couple thousand 52 Mickey Mantles out there that have been graded. And you look at some of the most high end LeBron RPAs. There's 500 or less, and especially if you're talking about the big ones, we're talking about 99 or less or 23 or less. So when you talk about a 52 mantle, there's a couple thousand, but I think that there's so much that goes into the reason why, the reason why people, myself included, really hold vintage up to the standard that we do. And that's because, grade, impact on the era. We're talking about, championships. We're talking about legacies. We're talking about people having true nostalgia. Proven statistics, proven winners. And, I think that the vintage collector is absolutely one of the smartest collectors out there because there's so much to really focus on.
So your answer is
It's a
that
wash. My answer is it's a wash.
it's a wash. Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
wash because I
Yeah.
think if you see the amount of T206 Ty Cobbs that are for sale on auction every week on PWCC, there's
Yeah.
no shortage of them.
Yeah.
They're not rare. They're not scarce.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to the point that junk wax was,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. So if you wanted one, you can get one. Will the prices continue to go up? I think so.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
it's
so
but as far as a collection, it almost seems like if you were going to collect something that you wanted to be sure that it held its value and had the ability to go up over a longer period of time compared to what our options are now with all these current cards coming out, I would almost think that would be money well spent into vintage cards, you know, than
it's a market that has stood the test of time.
yeah,
And I'm going to go with the old cliche: Babe Ruth is not going out and tearing an ACL tomorrow. Mickey Mantle is not either. There's really not much you're going to be able to do to take away any of the luster or scuff any of the shine that Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, Ernie Banks, I could just go on and on, have had, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron have had on not only the sport but the culture in general. So there's it's in stone. It's in stone. Now a lot of these guys, their stories haven't been written yet. A lot of these modern guys, and then you look at players like Joe Montana, a decent amount of Michael Jordan cards, a decent amount of Shaquille O'Neal cards. Like their playing day cards were so overly printed, with the exception of a handful of different sets, but a lot of them were so overly printed that there's not a ton of super valuable legends cards like Shaquille O'Neal.
mm. And
I
again,
know there are. I know there are. People are probably going to flood my DMs with, with different flawless 101
yeah,
patch autos and golds out of tens and stuff. But, that there's really not, though, playing day cards.
yeah,
So I think, modern has truly or vintage has stood the test of time. But with that being said, I do have to wrap up.
okay,
So did you have any final thoughts? Any point? Tonight I'm actually going to my daughter just started pre-K. It's her first school, She started pre-K about 4 weeks ago, and tonight is the first night that parents are allowed to go to the school, meet the teachers, and see the
just
classroom.
the
So I'm psyched,
beginning,
man.
just the beginning, kid.
I'm
Yeah,
psyched. I can't wait, man. She's having these
yeah,
little fundraisers. She's selling cookies and pies. I'm so psyched. I am so psyched.
yeah. I many years of that, and it's enjoy it all. That's all I'm gonna say to you. Just enjoy it all because it goes by fast.
No, I
And
appreciate that, man.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
listen, thank you so much, man. I know we'll be getting together again within the next 2 weeks for another collab episode. So thank you very much. Thank you, man. Any final thoughts or anything?
No, no, this is a great episode. I'm happy to pry some of that information out of you, and I'm happy to just kind of be able to report in about what we're doing as far as our refocusing and things like that, because I don't think we're the only ones going through it. I think there's a ton of people in the hobby going through this, and I think this is going to make a lot of sense to them too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, take care of yourselves and your collection.
Until next time, be good to yourselves and everyone around you. Take care, Rob.
Thanks a lot, Ken.